Good evening, everyone. I'm Riley King, and welcome to the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. Let's begin. First up, Rochester police investigate possible attempted murder-suicide after victim calls 911. Let's take a listen to the video from WMUR News 9.
We do begin with breaking news this noon. Police in Rochester are investigating an attempted murder-suicide. Authorities were called to Sunrise Drive around 6:30 this morning, where they found a man dead of what they say is a self-inflicted gunshot wound. They believe he shot a woman who lives there before turning the gun on himself. Police now confirming that she's the person who called them and that she's being treated at Portsmouth Hospital. Police also confirm several children live at the home. They were not home at the time.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Judge denies Owen Libery's request to have sexual assault jail term suspended. A judge on Tuesday denied a New Hampshire prep school graduate's request to suspend the remainder of his one-year jail sentence. Owen Libery, 23, of Turnbridge, Vermont, was convicted of sexually assaulting a 15-year-old classmate in 2015. A jury found him guilty of misdemeanor sexual assault charges and endangering the welfare of a child. The St. Paul's School graduate was also convicted of using a computer to lure an endangered student for sex, requiring him to register as a sex offender. Libery served 2 months in jail for curfew violations in 2016. His lawyer said he's complied with his bail conditions and has essentially been under house arrest for over 2 years. Prosecutors want Libery to serve the rest of his term. During a hearing Tuesday, a judge denied Libery's request to suspend the remainder of his sentence, but did grant a request for Libery to begin his time after Christmas so he can spend the holiday with his family. Libery was ordered to report to jail at 9 a.m. December 26. New emergency winter shelter opens in Concord. Let's take a listen to the video from WMUR News 9, Suzanne Rowntree.
Just in the nick of time, the Concord Coalition Against Homelessness was able to open the doors of its new permanent shelter at 238 North Main Street. Inside are 20 bunks, offering 40 beds to the city's homeless population.
We served 13 people last night, which this is similar to years past where it would open midwinter and it would start out with 15 or 20 people and gradually grow to an average of 35 a night over the past 3 years.
In years past, the shelters were opened at various churches in the city. This facility was built by volunteers.
The most vulnerable people in Concord who have no other place to go have a place to be warm.
warm on the winter nights.
With winter officially beginning this week, staying warm is on the minds of many. On Elm Street in Manchester this afternoon, we ran across people who say, indeed, once again this season, baby, it's cold outside.
We're long overdue for some cold today. This season, because last week was pretty nice. But yeah, it's been very cold.
I feel like the cold months have shifted about a month, right? Everything's getting colder a little later and a little longer.
You know what? Christmas spirit must go on.
Now, the winds also inconvenienced several hundred people across the Granite State today as they lost power because of downed power lines. But just minutes ago, I spoke with officials from Eversource. They say they are down to less than 5 customers without power, and they'll work until everyone's back online. Live in Manchester, Suzanne Rowntree, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. ACLU files federal lawsuit challenging state criminal defamation law. Let's take a listen to the video from WMUR News 9, Mike Cherry.
Six months ago, Robert Fries didn't mince words after being placed under arrest by Exeter police.
I'm willing to go to jail if it protects the rights of people. I'm absolutely willing to do it. I mean, I'm in this for the long haul.
At the time, the department charged Fries with a crime for posting comments about an online article on a retiring officer in Exeter.
Which, of course, runs afoul of the First Amendment. That's not how the First Amendment works.
The charges against Fries were dropped, but calling it a time for change, the ACLU filed a federal lawsuit today challenging New Hampshire's criminal defamation law, which makes it a misdemeanor to intentionally and falsely disparage another person.
Mr. Fries is still fearful of law enforcement being able to use this statute to criminally prosecute his speech. This is the second time, in fact, he's been charged with this statute.
The ACLU insists statutes like RSA 64411 need to be struck down.
And that's the problem with these statutes. It allows law enforcement huge discretion to prosecute free speech, speech that the government may not like.
The ACLU says instances like Mr. Fries's are not uncommon. Similar laws remain on the books in 25 states and the U.S. Virgin Islands.
Also, we think these statutes are hopelessly overbroad and hopelessly vague, so vague that really individuals aren't going to know what speech is prohibited and what speech is allowed.
Now, WMUR did reach out to Exeter Police for comment. They have not yet responded. Now that the lawsuit has been filed, the state will have 60 days to respond to the ACLU.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. New Hampshire Attorney General's Office investigating 78 cases of potential voter fraud. Let's take a listen to the video.
Five-year-old Michael Lewis for casting a ballot in Hooksett, where prosecutors say he didn't meet the domicile requirements. Hooksett police say they found Lewis when they were called to a polling location on Election Day to investigate a suspicious vehicle. Police say Lewis gave them a Florida driver's license but told them he lived in Hooksett. When police went to check the address, they learned he did not live there. Authorities say Lewis was possibly looking in other people's vehicles and was going in and out of his own car. And they say at one point Lewis was turned away from the polls and ran into the woods. If convicted, Lewis could face up to 7 years in prison. Hooksett police say this is a rare case for them.
We haven't been called to before. My officers did a really good job of recognizing that day that it wasn't just a suspicious person. His activities with being in the on voting day and so forth, and the answers that he was given was suspicious. So they did a good job of digging around a little more to see what he was doing.
The New Hampshire Attorney General's office says in relation to the 2016 election, this is the 4th person indicted on criminal charges for wrongful voting. There were 38 complaints. 21 of those have been closed as unfounded, and there are additional reviews of potential instances of double voting. WMUR's John DeStaso has more on those cases on our website and mobile app. Live in studio, Jessica Moran, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And now let's take a look at your U.S. stock market and see how your U.S. stock market closed for this Tuesday evening. And here's a look at your U.S. stock market. Your Dow Jones Industrial Average closed in the green and went up. Your Nasdaq closed in the green and went up. S&P 500 closed in the green and went up. Gold closed flat. Oil closed flat. U.S. 10-year closed in the red and went down. Euro/USD closed in the green and went up. And VAX closed in the green and went up. S&P 500 closes near its low for the year in volatile session on Wall Street. The S&P 500 closed just above its 2018 low Tuesday as stocks struggled to keep a rebound alive throughout the session. Judge delays sentencing Flynn after rebuke arguably you sold your country out. Michael Flynn's defense attorney asked a federal judge to delay sentencing after the judge unleashed a blasting attack on the former Trump advisor's conduct. And that did it for the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. I hope you all have a wonderful night, everyone, and I'll see you back here tomorrow for another newscast. And I'll have a news report coming up in a little bit. Goodbye, everyone.